Soft power is a concept developed by Joseph Nye of Harvard University to describe the ability to attract and co-opt rather than coerce, use force or give money as a means of persuasion. Soft power is the ability to shape the preferences of others through appeal and attraction. A defining feature of soft power is that it is non-coercive. The currency of soft power is culture, political values, and foreign policies. Recently, the term has also been used in changing and influencing social and public opinion through relatively less transparent channels and lobbying through powerful political and non-political organizations. In 2012, Nye explained that with soft power, the best propaganda is not propaganda, further explaining that during the information age, credibility is the scarcest resource. Joseph Nye coined the term in a 1990 book Bound to Lead: The Changing Nature of American Power. In this book, he wrote, "When one country gets other countries to want what it wants might be called co-optive or soft power, in contrast with the hard or command power of ordering others to do what it wants." He further developed the concept in his 2004 book, Soft Power: The Means to Success in World Politics. The term is now widely used in international affairs by analysts and statesmen. For example, the U.S. Secretary of Defense Robert Gates spoke of the need to enhance American soft power by a dramatic increase in spending on the civilian instruments of national security, diplomacy, strategic communications, foreign assistance, civic action and economic reconstruction and development. In 2011, as Xi Jinping was preparing to take power from Hu Jintao, the 17th Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party devoted a whole plenary session to the issue of culture, with the final communiqué declaring that it was a national goal to build our country into a socialist cultural superpower. And in 2014, Xi announced, "We should increase China's soft power, give a good Chinese narrative, and better communicate China's messages to the world." According to the 2015 Soft Power World Rankings report from Commerce, the Portland Group, and Facebook, the United Kingdom currently hold the top spot in soft power, followed by Germany in second place. The top 10 is completed by the United States, France, Canada, Australia, Switzerland, Japan, Sweden, Netherlands. According to the 2014 Monocle Soft Power Survey, the United States holds the top spot in soft power. The Elcano Global Presence Report scores the European Union highest for soft presence when considered as a whole, and ranks the United States first by sovereign state. It includes China, Russia, Spain and Italy in the top 10. Description: Joseph Nye introduced the concept of soft power in the late 1980s. For Nye, power is the ability to influence the behavior of others to get the outcomes you want. There are several ways one can achieve this. You can coerce them with threats, you can induce them with payments, or you can attract and co-opt them to want what you want. This soft power, getting others to want the outcomes you want, co-opts people rather than coerces them. It can be contrasted with hard power, which is the use of coercion and payment. Soft power can be wielded not just by states but also by all actors in international politics, such as NGOs or international institutions. It is also considered the second face of power, that indirectly allows you to obtain the outcomes you want. A country's soft power, according to Nye, rests on three resources: its culture, its political values, and its foreign policies. A country may obtain the outcomes it wants in world politics because other countries, admiring its values, emulating its example, aspiring to its level of prosperity and openness, want to follow it. In this sense, it is also important to set the agenda and attract others in world politics, and not only to force them to change by threatening military force or economic sanctions. This soft power, getting others to want the outcomes that you want, co-opts people rather than coerces them. Soft power resources are the assets that produce attraction, which often leads to acquiescence. Nye asserts that seduction is always more effective than coercion, and many values like democracy, human rights, and individual opportunities are deeply seductive. Angelo Codevilla observed that an often overlooked essential aspect of soft power is that different parts of populations are attracted or repelled by different things, ideas, images, or prospects. Soft power is hampered when policies, culture, or values repel others instead of attracting them. In his book, Nye argues that soft power is a more difficult instrument for governments to wield than hard power for two reasons. Many of its critical resources are outside the control of governments, and soft power tends to work indirectly by shaping the environment for policy, and sometimes takes years to produce the desired outcomes. The book identifies three broad categories of soft power: culture, political values, and policies. In The Future of Power, Nye reiterates that soft power is a descriptive, rather than a normative, concept. Therefore, soft power can be wielded for nefarious purposes. Hitler, Stalin, and Mao all possessed a great deal of soft power in the eyes of their acolytes, but that did not make it good. It is not necessarily better to twist minds than to twist arms. Nye also claims that soft power does not contradict the international relations theory of realism. Soft power is not a form of idealism or liberalism. It is simply a form of power, one way of getting desired outcomes. Limitations of the concept. Soft power has been criticized as being ineffective by authors such as Niall Ferguson in the preface to Colossus. Neo-realist and other rationalist and neo-rationalist authors dismiss soft power out of hand as they assert that actors in international relations respond to only two types of incentives: economic incentives and force. As a concept, it can be difficult to distinguish between soft power from hard power. For example, Janice Beerley-Matten argues that George W. Bush's use of the phrase, "You are either with us or with the terrorists," was in fact an exercise of hard power. Though military and economic force was not used to pressure other states to join its coalition, a kind of force, a representational force, was used. This kind of force threatens the identity of its partners, forcing them to comply or risk being labeled as evil. This being the case, soft power is therefore not so soft. However, rationalist authors would merely see this as an implied threat, and that direct economic or military sanctions would likely follow from being against use. Measurement. The first attempt to measure soft power through a composite index was created and published by the Institute for Government and the Media Company, Monocle, in 2010. The IIFG Monocle Soft Power Index combined a range of statistical metrics and subjective panel scores to measure the soft power resources of 26 countries. The index is said to measure the soft power resources of countries, and does not translate directly into ability influence. Monocle has published an annual soft power survey since then. As of 2014-15, the list is calculated using around 50 factors that indicate the use of soft power, including the number of cultural missions, Olympic medals, the quality of a country's architecture and business brands. The Soft Power 30, which includes a foreword by Joseph Nye, is a ranking of countries' soft power produced and published by the media company Portland in 2015. The ranking is based on the quality of a country's political institutions, the extent of their cultural appeal, the strength of their diplomatic network, the global reputation of their higher education system, the attractiveness of their economic model, and a country's digital engagement with the world. The Elcano Global Presence Report scores the European Union first for soft presence when its member states are excluded and the EU is considered as a whole. Soft power, then, represents the third behavioral way of getting the outcomes you want. Soft power is contrasted with hard power, which has historically been the predominant realist measure of national power. Through quantitative metrics such as population size, concrete military assets, or a nation's gross domestic product, But having such resources does not always produce the desired outcomes, as the United States discovered in the Vietnam War. The extent of attraction can be measured by public opinion polls, by elite interviews, and case studies. Nye argues that soft power is more than influence, since influence can also rest on the hard power of threats or payments. And soft power is more than just persuasion or the ability to move people by argument, though that is an important part of it. It is also the ability to attract, and attraction often leads to acquiescence. In international relations, soft power is generated only in part by what the government does through its policies and public diplomacy. The generation of soft power is also affected in positive ways by a host of non-state actors within and outside the country. Those actors affect both the general public and governing elites in other countries, and create an enabling or disabling environment for government policies. In some cases, soft power enhances the probability of other elites adopting policies that allow one to achieve preferred outcomes. In other cases, where being seen as friendly to another country is seen as a local political kiss of death, the decline or absence of soft power will prevent a government from obtaining particular goals. But even in such instances, the interactions of civil societies and non-state actors may help to further general milieu goals such as democracy, liberty, and development. Soft power is not the possession of any one country or actor. The success of soft power heavily depends on the actor's reputation within the international community, as well as the flow of information between actors. Thus, soft power is often associated with the rise of globalization and neoliberal international relations theory. Popular culture and mass media regularly identified as a source of soft power, as is the spread of a national language or a particular set of normative structures. A nation with a large amount of soft power and the goodwill that engenders it inspire others to acculturate, avoiding the need for expensive hard power expenditures. Because soft power has appeared as an alternative to raw power politics, it is often embraced by ethically minded scholars and policymakers. But soft power is a descriptive rather than a normative concept. Like any form of power, it can be wielded for good or bad purposes. While soft power can be used with bad intentions and wreak horrible consequences, it differs in terms of means. It is on this dimension that one might construct a normative preference for greater use of soft power. Research. Academics have engaged in several debates around soft power. These have included its usefulness, how soft power and hard power interact, whether soft power can be coercive or manipulative, how the relationship between structure and agency work, whether soft balancing is occurring, soft power and normative power in Europe, how civil resistance can often involve certain uses of soft power, but remains a distinct concept. One study finds that a state's soft power has a measurable effect on its exports. Countries that are admired for their positive global influence export more, holding other things constant.